out there. But let's talk about North Carolina first. Before we get into the juice, let's talk about North Carolina. So Roy Cooper, the Democrat governor of Northern Carolina, decided to pardon a couple of people in an actual pretty good manner. So I'm not going to research, the stories of these people. I am taking on good faith that these people were in fact wrongly convicted because the groups that are representing them I trust, and I trust that they're getting the good details here. And this is a problem all throughout this country, especially again when these convictions were 30 years ago, 40 years ago. These convictions, a lot of them were where the country was a lot more racist, right? A lot less fair, and the criminal justice system had a lot less necessity for evidence, right, in its conviction requirements, right? So there's a lot of people that get convicted for crimes that they did not commit, right? For example, we had a recent case where the federal government executed someone. I believe their name was Brendan Bernard. I believe their name was. I'm sorry if I got that incorrectly. Who debatably did not really commit a crime. They were just in the car of someone who did commit a crime, and they were executed by the government, right? So this is a real big problem. And one of the reasons why it's a little bit better to have a Democrat governor compared to a Republican governor is Democrat governors, right? They feel a little bit of pressure from PR, and they'll sometimes do good things like this. And 5 people's lives have been permanently improved, made for the better. And that is a net positive, all right? So I'm going to read this story. It's relatively short, but it's pretty good news, and I'm happy about this. So, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper granted pardons Thursday to 5 men convicted of crimes they did not commit, including one freed this year after serving 44 years on a wrongful rape conviction. We must continue to work to reform our criminal justice system and acknowledge when people have been wrongly convicted, Cooper said in a press release. I have carefully reviewed the facts in each of these cases, and while I cannot give these men back the time they served, I am granting them pardons of innocence in the hope that they might be better able to move forward in their lives. Ronnie Wallace Long, at age 64, was freed in August after decades in prison, CNN previously reported. It had been a long road, Long said, but it's over, and it's over with now. Long, who is black, was found guilty of rape and burglary in 1976 and sentenced to life in prison. His conviction was vacated after the state of North Carolina filed a motion in federal court seeking to do so. A judge found the evidence from the crime scene did not match Long and was deliberately withheld by law enforcement. Gee, I wonder why. Cops in 1976 falsifying evidence against a black man? Gee, never heard of that before. Cooper also pardoned Teddy Lamont Isbell Sr., Damian Miguel Mills, Kenneth Manzi Cagoniera, and Larry Jerome Williams Jr. They pleaded guilty to charges ranging from robbery to second-degree murder, but were later found not guilty. The pardons make them eligible to file a claim under a state law that allows compensation to persons wrongly convicted of felonies. Now, here's another thing. When someone is exonerated, why aren't they immediately released? Think about that, right? A lot of these people were found to be innocent, and yet they're still in prison. Imagine someone finds out that you're innocent, right? And a judge is like, yeah, you're innocent. And then it's like, okay, but you're still in prison. What? Why do you need to wait for the pardons? What? It's bizarre. It's bizarre. What we need in this country is we need a mandatory review of all cases, let's say every couple years. Hell, as often as possible, every year maybe, right? You need to have a mandatory look at all of these cases, especially ones from the 1970s. You don't think cops were falsifying evidence because they were racist in the 1970s? Come on, man. Come on. We need to be looking at all of these convictions. We need to be re-examining all of these cases because there are people whose lives are being stolen. Their life is literally being sapped away by the government for no reason. No reason other than they were in the wrong place at the wrong time and had the wrong skin color. And it's absolutely absurd. And so hats off to Roy Cooper for doing this kind of stuff. Hope he does more. This is the good stuff. But, let's be honest. It's probably just a PR stunt. But either way, again, these people's lives are improved, right? And that's worth it. So PR stunt or not, these people are finally able to walk free and not be slaves of the state, right? Again, let's look at the amendment that abolished slavery. There's an exemption for those that are convicted and in prison, right? Why do you think that, very slightly after the Civil Rights Act was passed, you have a lot of racist cops try to start convicting black people at higher and higher rates? It's their way of undoing the progress, right? That is their method of doing so. And we need to re-examine every single one of these cases. And we need to institute a way that if you are found not guilty, you get released instantly. No questions asked. If you are found by a shadow shadow of a doubt, not guilty, you should not be serving an additional second in prison. You shouldn't have to wait for the governor to look your case over and say, yeah, sure. Or, just ignore them, right? Because a lot of governors, if Dan Forrest were have to won the governorship in this country or in this state, do you think he would have done this? Hell no, right? So we need to institute a way to have these people be released as soon as they're exonerated. And we need to hold these cops accountable. These cops are ruining people's lives, stealing 44 years of someone's life. And then throughout those 44 years, what did the cop do? They were free, and they did the same thing over and over and over. And then they retired, and they had a beautiful retirement, right? And they lived out the rest of their lives holding their loved ones in happiness, while the people whose lives they destroyed are rotting away in prison. Think about that. It's not fair, and it's not justice. And that's what I think about that.